Hi there again. I just want to do a follow-up video to just discuss the way the third row 4Runners seat configuration works and to answer the question whether or not it's actually useful. This is a 2023 SR5 Premium. The main reason we got an SR5 versus the TRD Off-Road, which would have been a contender for us if it had the ability to have a third row, but it's only available on the 4Runner in the SR5, SR5 Premium, and I believe the Limited trim. So I just wanted to go over in this video how it kind of works and if it's actually worth having or not. So first up is kind of the concept of how much space that actually takes up when the third row is stowed. So this right now is the back of the 4Runner with the third row in the down position stowed away. Personally, I think it's actually a really clever use of space. The difference between this and the non-third rows is essentially this distance right here, which is about 3.5, perhaps 4 inches of width, or height, I should say, and volume it takes up. So going from essentially this level all the way across to the back of the second row seats versus this across to the back of the second row seats is the difference in space it occupies in the back of the truck. So you still have a lot of cargo space back here. And it is a flat surface still that includes latch points, 4 latch points for securing cargo. You still have the same power outlets you'd get without the third row. And the only other real change back here is that they add, obviously, the third row seatbelts, which when they're not being used can be stowed like this versus dangling around like this, like the last time my kid was in here yesterday and they left it in this position. So first I'd like to kind of show how the second row seats function and how you access the third row and set up the third row. Got to pardon the mess a little bit in here. This is my shop. It's raining. It's mid-December in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we're having an absolutely awful start to winter. The little snow we had is melted, and it's raining today, so I'm inside this shop, and it's a little tight in here because I'm remodeling our house right now, and I've got all my tools and stuff set up in here. But looking at the interior, there's a little bit of a difference when you come and look at the second row on a third row 4Runner versus one without. The way the seats function is one of them. The reclining functions are the same as far as how you can recline the seat backs. But there's an additional adjustment that you don't get in the 2-row 4Runners, which is a 4 aft adjustment with the seat bottom. So if I grab down here, I can actually slide the second row this far forward. And if I grab it down here and do it again, I can go all the way back. Right now they're in the further back position, which I think might be a little bit farther back than the second row 4Runners, but I'm not certain on that. If you know, let me know in the comments below. Just for reference though, I'm 6'1", and I'm sitting behind myself. I have the seat adjusted for me driving, and I have a ton of leg room. So based off that, I think that these actually are a little bit farther back. I didn't spend a lot of time in a 5th gen 4Run prior to this, trying out different seat configurations. So if you look at this, I'm actually gonna open this door back up so it brightens it up a little bit. It's a little bit dark in here. But if I slide this forward, I can go all the way forward to the point where I'm just smashed up into the seat too. The reason I'm pointing this out is because it becomes helpful to know with regard to the third row when I get to that in a moment. But you can see the difference in adjustment between the side on the passenger side, which is all the way back, and the side I'm currently in, which is all the way forward. So there, I'm sliding it back again. All right, so that's an important thing to know. These seats function a little bit different. There's actually more adjustability in regards to legroom in the second row, which also lets you adjust how much legroom you have in the third row. So it's really cool to have that option. Everything else functions similar. You have the center armrest with the cup holder. This is also a pass-through, which I can't grab for right now, but I can fold this section down if you want to run skis through the center of the truck. That functions similar to other trucks. So now, if I want to actually set up the third row, you normally would access it from the passenger side, because here, when you flip the seat forward, it doesn't automatically slide forward on the track. You can still do it manually though, if you want to get all that extra access. All right, so, but let me show you how this works. I'm gonna set the third row up by grabbing back here. I'm gonna pull the seat backs up. It's important to pull that latch all the way up before you yank on it. So flip this up, pull this back. Okay, now the seat backs are in position. If I can do this one-handed or not. Grab this handle here, pull up on this, and that allows you to pull up the headrest. That clicks into position. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. Again, sorry, it's a little awkward while filming this with one hand, but that's really easy to do. And then I'm gonna go back around to the front. And if you grab down here, so you can see right now, the seat bottom is retracted in. So if I grab this, that just flips right out and engages into position. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and close this seat back though, for the sake of this video. Put it in the rear position. Now I'm gonna come around over to the passenger side and do the same thing. Now watch how, I had to be careful, I've got ladders and stuff right here. Notice how this side works versus the driver's side. When I engage this lever, it actually automatically slides the seat back all the way forward. So as far as ease of use goes, this is basically the passenger side you want to use for getting people in and out of the third row. And I apologize it's so dark in here. It is a dreary, dark day, and we're in my shop, and with the black interior, might not show the space that much, but here's what it looks like. This is with the second row all the way back and the third row in the up position. Now, with myself as 6'1" sitting in the back seat of this, having this driver's side all the way back, obviously I don't have a whole lot of leg room, but if I pull this passenger side back and engage it into place, I actually have leg room. I'm sitting comfortably right now. My knees are just barely touching it. This seat, if you look, is in the forward position. But as a 6'1" individual, I do have room for my legs. However, my head currently is touching the headliner, so it wouldn't be a place I want to sit for very long. But for children, it's absolutely wonderful. And even with this second row all the way back, my 10, 8-year-old, and obviously 5-year-old, I'll sit back here completely comfortably with no issue at all. But what you can do, if you need to haul adults back here, you can adjust, or even larger kids, I should say, or teenagers, you can adjust this forward a little bit somewhere along the track and have that extra space. So to get out, it's the same process, except you grab here, and that brings this to the forward position to get out. Not the most graceful thing getting in and out of here from the back, but it works. You can use this lever here to do it, and that actually engages the slide. I didn't actually get the slide all the way forward. When you grab it from the top, it just flips it forward, but it doesn't engage the slide. But there's the aperture to get in and out. It's not that hard to get in and out as an adult, but it's not the most graceful thing compared to, say, a Sienna, where you could walk through the middle or have a much wider opening to get into the back, or even a Grand Highlander for that matter. But yeah, that's kind of what that looks like. While I'm back here, I'll show you this flip down for the center, for the ski pass through. Let me pull this back again. So with that here, you can kind of see how you have this flat space here to load long cargo through the middle with the second row up. Just kind of a cool option. All right, so I'm gonna grab this handle right here. It's kind of hard to see in here, it's dark. And flip that forward. So that's what that looks like. So here I just want to give a little visual example of the recline position and how much leg room you have. So the driver's side is in the upright position, the natural position it clicks to. and then the passenger side is reclined back. It's a decent amount of recline, actually. It'd be pretty comfortable to take a nap in on a road trip, although I haven't actually tried it yet. And then with the seat in the all the way back position, you have a fairly good amount of leg room. I actually have enough room to cross my legs if I wanted to with these second rows slid to the furthest back position. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show was what it looks like with the third row half folded down and one side up. This is really useful. So for our family, we have 3 kids. And if I want to spread the kids out and have 2 kids in the second row and 1 in the third row, we still have a good amount of room to put bags, items from the store, things like that. I don't know if on a road trip yet, if it would be very functional as far as being able to handle all of our luggage concerns. I guess it kind of depends what we're doing, but it's not a ton of space, but it is still a space that gives you some options back here. So with the third row in the up position, you do lose pretty much all of your cargo capacity in the back as far as volume goes. It's not completely gone, but you're basically looking at, 6 to 8 inches back here with the seat reclining back over it, plus little extra spaces on the side here. So in theory, yeah, if you had 4 or 5 bags of groceries, you could probably set them back there and then close the gate without crushing them, but it's not a whole lot of use, so it does definitely cut into your utility. For us, when we are planning to go on trips, I think what we're going to do is actually have the kids in the second row or maybe one side of the third row with the other side folded down to be able to accommodate luggage, things like that. But the nice thing is for like trips to town, going to school, things like that, you don't need to carry a lot of stuff. It's really easy to put the kids in the back there, and if you don't have luggage concerns on a certain day. So it gives you a lot of options, and that's what I really like about it. Okay, now to show how to stow the third row. It's basically a 3-step process. So first you want to go and retract your bottom seat cushion. So right down here is a handle. You pull this and it folds back automatically right into the back, which allows you to then come up here, do step 2, which is to retract your headrest. That's gone. And last, we flip this up and that folds down. Really easy, super, super easy to do. And again, it basically folds flat. Same process for the other side, obviously. Okay, so here's another function I wanted to show. This one specifically because I couldn't really find anything on YouTube before we bought this on how this actually folded. But another thing that's completely different on the third row 4Runners versus the 2 row is the fold forward function on the second row. So in the pretty much every second row 4Runner, the bottom of the seat cushions flip forward with the backrest folding flat up to it and making a flat load surface, relatively flat load surface across the floor. It's not perfectly flat, but it's pretty close. On these 4Runners, the bottom seat cushion stays in place because remember we have a slide rail on the bottom, so it's a totally different seat configuration on these. So for these, you flip this forward, then you grab this, and then that lays flat. So these don't actually flip the bottom seat cushion forward. The top folds right down on top of the bottom. Now with it like this, you can see, I don't know if it comes out well in video, it's not perfectly flat. It actually, this whole load floor slopes down towards the back, and there's a little bit of a gap here. It's not perfectly level, if you can see that, if I hold it like that. Obviously, in a 2 row with the bottom seat cushion flipping forward, this actually sits much lower. So you do lose a little bit of interior height with the seat folded down on the third row because of the nature in which it folds. Okay, so here we are with both of the second row and third row folded flat. So I want to give you a little view of what that looks like. So from back here, you can see it definitely kind of slopes upwards to the front. You can see where it lands against the back headrest. While this may be a a decent amount less than the second row with your seats folded all the way forward. I just want to show that it is still an absolutely cavernous amount of space back here. One last thing to show with this is with these seat backs folded down, you can still slide these forward and back if you need to adjust them for certain cargo and things like that. Right now is the most flush it can be when it's up against the back, but if you grab the slider rail down here on the bottom, you can still fold these forward. When you do that, obviously it makes a gap back here, which may or may not be useful if you're packing and you need this space. This might be something you could utilize for small items. Obviously this side, the passenger side, slides forward too like that. But the one thing to note is that you don't have to fold your headrests forward. In fact, they don't fold forward on these 3-row 4Runners. Part of the process in the 2 rows is to fold the seat bottom forward, the headrest, then needs to flip, I think it's backwards or forwards, I can't really remember. I think it maybe folds forwards. It's designed to slide into a groove basically as the backrest folds forward into that space. But on these 3rd rows, this actually doesn't adjust or move. It just adjusts up and down, but not forward or backwards or anything like that. So when you go to fold it forward, it just occupies that space. So there's a decent amount of space back here though when they're in the back position. If you can see that, it's a little bit dark, but if that's helpful, I'll show it to you. Like I said, I didn't see any videos that really showed this aspect of it, and I wanted to give people a little bit of perspective of how those work and how that space is utilized when that 3rd row is folded. Hopefully that's helpful. Last thing I wanted to show was one of the options we got on this 4Runner, which is absolutely key if you live in an area with winter or a spring mud season, is the rubber floor liner kit. So this has rubber floor liners for the front, middle, and in the cargo area here with the seats folded down. This is that Toyota rubber floor liner that fits back here. Just to show, there are spots where these mounting points are, where you can actually cut this out and be able to still utilize this mat and have your latching points be able to pop through there, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's what that looks like fit in there on top of that. The one thing it doesn't do, which I wasn't sure until we actually got this truck, it doesn't give you a rubber floor liner for where the feet go in front of the 3rd row when it's up. So maybe there's something out there for that, and if you know something, let me know, because that's something I'd be interested in adding to ours to aid in kind of keeping things from getting super dirty in the winter. All right, so there you go. That's a little tour of how the 3-row 4Runner setup works. So the basic question is it useful? Prior to getting one of these or actually even spending any time looking around them, I was trying to find information on the interwebs, like most people do in searches. And, you know, I saw a lot of comments like, it's so small, it's not useful, don't waste your money on it, don't take up the space. But in my opinion, it's very useful. Part of the beauty of having a SUV of this type anyway is versatility. And I think the compromise of space that takes up versus the function it offers, especially with children, versus having a minivan, or if you want to have a off-roadable vehicle in this size, it's really your only option. And most importantly for us, the new Land Cruiser that's coming to the States, the 250 series, which as of the time of me shooting this is currently under production. It just started. That is not going to be available with 3rd row. The specs and dimensions that I've been able to find so far are kind of hit and miss. I've been really curious, like payload capacity, and some of the interior volume measurements and stuff. Obviously I haven't seen one yet, though some friends of mine were actually there at the introduction in Utah. I haven't been able to actually see one in person yet, but from my understanding of it, is that it's marginally larger than this, smaller than the 300 series Land Cruiser and the 200 series Land Cruiser, but it's going to be just a little bit bigger than this. It's still considered part of the Prado platform, although now the 300 series and the Prado are all TNGF platform sharing vehicles. I think there's a lot of 300 series engineering and parts and things like that. They're actually going to be shared in that new Land Cruiser, but at the end of the day, it's still considered like a Prado class of truck, although I think that line's a little bit more blurred now in this next generation. Getting back to my point though, is that for the US bound vehicles in Canada too, I believe, there isn't going to be a third row option because some of the space back there is being occupied by the hybrid battery. So that was kind of a deal breaker for us. So I think if you're looking for a vehicle that you can use for family duty, daily driving, and with trailability in mind, or traveling, overlanding, I think this is the only real option you have without going to something much larger like a 200 series, 100 series Land Cruiser. I've spent time in these as well. They have a third row option. It's not great. I think this one is very comparable in legroom and usability, but I think the stow function on this is way better than the flip up to the side types that you get in those Land Cruisers. So yeah, I think it's very useful. I think it's worth it, especially if you have children, especially if you have more than 2 children. Everything changes when you add a third child. Everything gets infinitely harder. So for our use case, this was a great solution to it. You can't get a third row in anything with a rear locker in the 4Runner. So the best you can do is SR5 Premium or Limited. So that's why we went with the SR5 Premium. So we're gonna take full advantage of that A-track and take full advantage of the third row and the extra payload capacity you get in the SR5s versus the TRD Off-Road and the TRD Pro. So everything's a little bit of a compromise. This is gonna work really well. We have the first upgrade coming Monday, so I'll do a follow-up video on that. Really excited about that. And kind of discuss some of the other stuff we have kind of planned for it as I get to that video. So thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. I just posted that first impressions video the other day, and it was pretty cool seeing how many people viewed it already. So I appreciate that. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. I'll try to keep bringing out content. It's going to be kind of hit and miss till spring when we do more actual upgrades of the truck and probably take it on its first real voyage. But planning to do some pretty fun trips with this thing. We have a Alaska trip we're planning sometime in the next year, possibly still. Haven't decided whether we're gonna do it with this or our Sportsmobile. So there's a possibility we might do it with this and go really simplistic, do it with this and or maybe our Airstream Bambi behind it, or just go light and tent camp and do it that route. But anyway, kind of some future things coming up down the pipeline. But thanks a lot again for watching, and hit me up in the messages below if there's in the comment section below if there's any questions you have specific to it. Like I said, I only found really one good video on the third row usage on these trucks, so this was something I thought was pretty important to have out there for people considering this, as we have one more year of this thing probably available to get, and I know there's a lot of people that have been really chomping at the bit to get their hands on these before they change over. So anyway, thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.